Before I get going on the review, I kind of wanted to show you this holster. I was recently in Sedona, Arizona a couple weeks ago and picked it up. Thought it was kind of a cool holster. Nice, and smells nice and leathery. I think when you have a nice gun, it's important to have nice leather to go with it. So the firearm we're going to be talking about is the Ruger New Vaquero, and that is this lovely instrument right here. It is a, I don't know if you can call it a clone or not, there are some differences, but it's based off the Colt single action handgun that was his most famous, the gun that won the West. I got a couple boxes of ammo. It's Winchester John Wayne commemorative ammo. And I have this Ultramax here out of North Dakota, or South Dakota, excuse me, Rapid City, South Dakota. Kind of like some of these old firearms, when they make ammo for them, they kind of have these retro boxes, which I think is really cool. It says smokeless on here, kind of like with wording, you know, from that age. Of course, back then they probably wouldn't have had a brand called Ultramax, but I could be wrong. But it's kind of a cool box, anyway, nonetheless. Of course, the Vaquero comes with the Ruger hard case, also a lock. Other than that, there's not a lot of accessories because it is a revolver. And I just kind of want to show you, I want to compare. This here is the 45 Colt. So, some people call it the 45 Long Colt, I guess, which is pretty common nowadays, but back then there was no other 45 Colt. The 45 ACP wasn't here, so they just called it the 45 Colt back in that day. And here is the 45 ACP. And you can kind of compare it, it's similar in length to a 357. Now the 45 Colt is not a Magnum, even though it's the same length as the 357. It's back when it was invented, it used black powder instead of smokeless powder like we do nowadays. So it took a lot more powder to have the same effect of like what the 45 ACP would nowadays. Then we have the big daddy of them all. Here's the 45, or excuse me, the 450 Bushmaster, which is bigger than all of them. So that's that. Back to the revolver. It's a 5.5 inch barrel. As you can see, it's the finish on it is high gloss stainless. The frame itself is made out of stainless steel. It's got the black checkered grips. I've seen some like on a Ruger website, they have some really nice rosewood grips that I would like to get for it. I've never really been that much into like ivory or anything like that, but I really like the wood grips. This looks nice as it is, but I think it would look really nice with wood. 6-shot, as I said, 45 Colt. This style of grip here, I guess, I've been doing some research online, and I guess it was called the XR3 grip, or that's what we call it nowadays. And it's based off of the 1851 Colt Navy revolver. So it has, this style of grip goes back a long ways. I guess the old Vaquero that Ruger had, or it was simply called the Vaquero, had a different style grip. I believe it was called the XR6 or something like that. A little bit different style, but I guess for this they went back. In a lot of ways, this a lot closer to the original Colt single action as far as size and dimensions that the previous Vaquero was. The previous one was a little bit bigger. This also comes in blued, comes in a Bisley model, and it also comes in a SASS model, which is, as far as I know, I believe it's the same look as this, but it's the barrel is only, I think, 4.5 inches long, and it also comes with a set of 2, which is kind of cool. There are some differences to the Colt single action. I think they're all improvements. Like, for example, the original Colt, when you loaded it, you half-cocked it, the revolver. On this one here, there is no half-cock. And what's cool about that is that the cylinder is indexed. So on the previous Colt, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, the hole did not always line up. And when you use the punch mechanism here, the ejector rod, it did not always add up because it wasn't indexed properly. With this, it's reverse indexed so that when you spin it, you turn it backwards a little bit and it will lock and everything lines up the way it should. Before when you did that, it didn't line up, as I said. So that's one feature that I think is really nice. This one, they also went back to a crescent shaped ejector rod head, which is also different than the original Vaquero. That's more similar. I don't know how identical it is to the Colt single action, but it's, I guess, a lot closer than what it was before. Another improvement, one thing I really like about this, Ruger has a transfer bar here, so that if the hammer is home, you can't bump it. No matter how hard you hit this, the gun will not fire. So this enables you to carry all 6 chambers empty. Before that, they always recommended that you left one open. So when you're loading it, you'd put one in, spin, leave a space empty, then put the next one in. But with this, you don't have to. You can load all 6 rounds in here and it will not fire. And you can kind of see when it goes up, that transfer bar, when you pull the trigger, it goes up and transfers to the firing pin. When the trigger is not pulled, it's down. So there's no way this could go off from bumping it. Another difference is not really something, you don't really notice it, but underneath the right grip panel, there's a lock, an action lock, internal action lock. Kind of like in a lot of other Rugers, it's on the outside, and you stick a little pin in there to lock it. On this one, it's underneath the grip. So I guess, and I haven't taken this apart, but from what I read online, if you take the grip off, on the inside of the grip, there's a little hole that has been it hasn't been dug all the way through, but if you drill through where the hole is, you'll actually expose the internal lock. So I guess if somebody would want to use it, you would just take the grip off, drill through, and then put the grip back, and then you can use it from the outside. Otherwise, you could just take the grip off and use it like that and then put the grip back on. I would never use it. I keep my gun in a safe when I'm not using it, and when it's out, it's always under my supervision, so I wouldn't really use that. The front side is the blade, and the back is a notch, very similar to the Colt single action. I fired it today. It's been a long time since I've fired a 45 with one hand, kind of like they did back in the old days. I used to have another brand of Colt single action, a clone, and I'm not really going to say what brand it was. It was pretty nice. It was a lot more inexpensive than this. I want to say the other one, it was on sale. I think I got it for like around $300. And a lot of the reviews I read on the other one, they said it was a great deal for the money. And some of them argued it was better than, say, like the Beretta Stampede and other revolvers like that. But I'll say this one here. Now I've played with some Colt single actions, or actual Colt single actions. I've never fired one, but I've played with them. This one here is a little bit more than some of the clones out there, like Cimarron and Uberti. But I'll tell you, the quality of this one is on par with like the Colt single action, and maybe even a little bit better than the Beretta Stampede. This is very high quality, and I notice a huge difference just in the trigger mechanism, the hammer, everything is very, very high grade compared to some of the cheaper clones. The other ones are fine, you know, for just knocking around and all, but this one here is an extremely nice firearm. I really like it. So, but anyway, today I was at the range shooting it one-handed, and I did all right. I managed to, at 25 yards, I got 5 out of 6 in the black, which is not too bad. And then off camera, I did some more shooting. Some of it not as good. Some of it a little bit better. That's all off camera. What happens at the range stays at the range unless it's on camera. That was an interesting experience, and I really enjoyed shooting it quite a bit. So if you haven't checked it out, you know, if you're a cowboy action shooter, whatever, single action shooter, If you're looking for one, definitely check out the Ruger Vaquero. It's a very, very nice handgun. I really think they did the Old West proud with this handgun here. If it was still the Old West, it would definitely fit in nicely. As always, if you have any questions, let me know. Semper Fi. Alright, 25 yards. Hit it a couple times.